from all, to all, with all, for all, through all. We thank the gods of creation. We thank the ancestors. We thank the forces of nature. And we thank the earth. We thank them for their direction, their protection, their guidance, for keeping us, showing us, allowing us to know and enjoy life to its fullest, now and later.
Black people who once loved with the slow march of time. Time was ours to hold in the soft, lower-born chambers of our hearts. And once we, the Afro mommies and daddies of a sun world, would turn our strands of hair into antennas to tune in the juju madness and syncopated love rhythms of Africa. And we loved with time, and we took the time to love. And with the right time we love, and we love time after time. Will we ever love again? Will we ever love again? Will we really ever love again? Or will we just sit and rot away with the brighter tomorrows in the skag-filled, rat-cluttered halls of our minds?
Black people, what y'all gonna do? Black people, what y'all gonna do?
Will the real black people please stand up?
Jumbo Habari, and welcome once again to our story, the program that makes being black positive, relevant, desirable, and true to a lost nation in America. A program that speaks of the historical significance of the original people of the earth. Our Story Network takes pride in setting itself away from other programs that centers on entertainment or rhetorical mumbo-jumbo that misdirects your attention onto other things that causes you to exhaust your resources and renders you brain dead. It is Our Story who talks about commitment to you and your people. It is Our Story that champions the reestablishment of the black genius that once ruled the world. It is Our Story that focuses you in on the rewards of black advocacy, black activism, black involvement, and black power. It is Our Story that encourages survival of the black race and solicits your involvement to that end. Black folks must remember race first is a call of the day, and we as a people must, I say must take the pledge if we the people of the original race expect to survive. As I take the many lessons I have received over the years and reflect upon them by sharing these lessons with my brothers and sisters, I realize the power that we as a people possess for the most part has gone unnoticed. The masses of black folks who have been rendered lost and disenfranchised from the meaning and mission our creators intended for us to embrace is all but dead. It is because of the mission and meaning of the life of our ancestors that I realize how blessed as black people we really are. What fascinates me are the many gifts I have been granted, which allows me to distribute the information onward to you. As always, that message begins and ends with the importance of blackness. Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. Greetings, friends, comrades, family, the inquisitive onlookers, and our beloved viewers. Welcome, welcome, and welcome to Our Story Network. We thank you for being with us this evening, and we trust you will take something of value away with you after the program. That is the aim and goal of Our Story Network, the network that leads the pack in modern-day communications and ancient and modern education. I say ancient and modern education because of the many errors we have found in the translations and interpretations of ancient records. The modern revelations by new black scholars have opened the window of discovery that has allowed the truth and knowledge originally disseminated by the black masters of education to flourish once again. This is one of the stumbling blocks that has kept black people from rebuilding their greatness and recapturing their birthright. Good evening, brothers and sisters, and welcome to the last television production of the year for Our Story. That's right, the year 2018 has rapidly come to a close, and we at Our Story Network want to thank you for all of your support and all of your contributions, on air as well as off air. I am even going to include the Monday morning radio show, The Chuck Wagon with Chuck Perkins. I have enjoyed sharing with you the knowledge and experiences I have been afforded over the years with my brothers and sisters who, in turn, have shared their knowledge and experiences with me. We are looking forward to another year of communications, both here and on WBOK. I only wish I could thank each one of you individually over the air, but that would take up several shows. So if you are within the view or sound of my voice, know that this Thanksgiving is for you. There are two people I need to thank personally: Anthony Montgomery, our control room manager, and Kevin Dixon, our floor manager. These two people are the heart and soul of our weekly production. My viewers have no idea how valuable these two men are in making sure we present a quality production to you each and every week. These are the men of magic that make me look as if I know what I'm doing. They are more than just family, they are the pulse of our story's being. Thank you again, Anthony and Kevin, for giving your heart and soul to our story. Thank you all for what you do. Now, turning our attention to a place called Right Now, I want to comment on the film, The Green Book. I had an opportunity to see this movie, and I want to say how well done this little piece of history was depicted. I know white folks don't like to talk about the sundown towns and the refusal of hotels and gas stations to service black people during a noble time in America. But the truth is the truth, and this movie recalls all of the hate and torment blacks suffered while on the road traveling from here to there. Dr. Don Shirley, an accomplished pianist in the 1950s and 60s, documented his life well for the later generations of America to see exactly what blacks were forced to endure in the home of the brave and the land of the free. I believe this is a movie well worth the time and expense to see. But for me, this movie was more than just another movie. My son-in-law, Ernest Josh Little, who happens to be an artist, worked on a project last year where he created an ad campaign for the internet app that revived the Green Book of old to include updated information for black travelers today. a listing of hotels, motels, camps, eateries, vacation resorts, tourist homes, and more. The new Green Book assures protection for the African American traveler. In a time where police are killing black people without any repercussions, it is a good idea to know where you can travel and what you may expect once you get there. Ernest brought this to my attention several months before the movie was released. It is interesting how much information I receive without really trying to inquire for the info. Like me, many of you gain access to information that has the potential for being earth-shattering. Most of us dismiss the information and continue on in our daily lives. As a person who calls himself aware, this certainly got past me. Now that I have been able to connect the dots, I give all credit to my son-in-law for being on the razor edge of consciousness. The Green Book app is worthy for all of us to look into and use when we can. While I'm on the subject, I want to share another tool of helpful hints. This is another advertising campaign my son-in-law worked on. Trax has your back. The next time you fit the description of someone wanted by the police, Track in your smartphone has a log detailing your whereabouts. It is unfortunate in this day and age, black people must be concerned about being attacked by the police. Trax has your back, an interpretive app that documents your every move. So when the police stop and try to say you look like the suspect they're after, you can pull out your cell phone and show where you have been in the last several hours. A note of caution: before you reach for your phone, announce what you are doing and why. We don't want and we don't need any more, "I thought he or she had a gun." This is a simple idea that may save your life or the life of a loved one. But as I think about it, hasn't it been that way ever since blacks landed on the shores? Well, I want to thank my son-in-law for his insight into Black America 21st Century Edition. The end of the year has not gone without joy and laughter. As I announced for the past 3 weeks, the alumni of the Southern School of Social Work held their meet and greet at the Millie M. Charles building on campus this past Friday. There was fun had by all, and as you will be able to see, some fabulous and famous faces took part of the festivities. The Queen herself was there to provide additional joy and comfort to the festival environment. Most black people are not aware of the benefits this discipline affords our race through the opportunities of addressing our cultural being and to better understand the environmental invasion on the very being the creators created. It wasn't until Dr. Millie M. Charles made a way for the black social workers to circle their wagons to perfect a science that could address perplexing problems facing Black America. It is because of the giants who continue to press forward with the understanding that black folks must save themselves that we are blessed as a people to solve our own problems. In fact, black people have been solving their problems and everyone else's problems as well. But all in all, this past Friday was a blast. As you can see from the festive time those in attendance had. I know I was excited about being in the building named after a black champion who dedicated her life to the upliftment of black people. It has been exuberant to experience the life of Dr. Charles and to know her personally. So many times we work with giants in our own community, but few times are we able to celebrate their legacy with the full world acknowledging their contribution. We are forced to wait years after they transition before we can participate in their celebrations. This is why we must celebrate our heroes and sheroes while they're among us. It is also important to celebrate our pioneers so we can teach our children to be mindful of the work that is being done for the betterment of our people. If we do not leave a legacy for our children to follow, then our children will be left without role models to follow. And I don't mean thugs on some corner teaching how to be nickel slick. Equally, poverty pimps in the halls of education or the pulpits of religious institutions. We do not need white folks' best Negro friend being our role model. We need blacks who have showed their worth and value into the black community. Long live the black heroes and sheroes. As I said at the beginning of the commentary, this is our last show before the new year, and I must add, white folks' New Year's at that. I remind you about this because many of you forget black folks have their own New Year and their own special days to celebrate. I want to remind you to go to sirshadow.com to see the work of this black genius and to arrange getting your copy of his calendar. You will be happy you did. Now, I could not think of a better way to close out White Folks Year than by having my friend and colleague Ronald Fletcher, a licensed social worker and counselor, who assists veterans and others who want to address and or correct their problems. You know it is always easy to close out a year with someone you know and respect. It makes my job easier and the viewers can better relate to the issues at hand. My brother has with him a guest whom he will introduce into our conversation this evening. So, Brother Fletcher, I know we talked about several things to close out this broadcast year with, but as I know you, we can talk about anything and it will be exciting and enlightening. I know I said I wanted to have a conversation that would help our listeners better understand the times we are living in and the possibilities of surviving the many challenges that we will be facing, all of us in the new year. And as always, I want to form a black perspective, a perspective you have a vast knowledge of knowing. So, thank you for inviting me to the meet and greet last Friday. I truly enjoyed it. And as a springboard, where can the social work profession take our community from here?
First of all, I'm humbled to be here. I appreciate you inviting me. And that's a deep, big question. And I want to answer that just through conversation. That's how I would like to do
That's
that.
fine.
I want to also acquiesce most of my time here with two Abraham Landers, Brother Landers. I met him a couple of days ago. We had an interesting conversation, and I thought it would be good to have him on the show and for you guys to talk in particular because you have some things in common, I thought. And also, we'll get to answering the questions just through conversation, I'm believing. So,
Brother Abraham, give us a little insight into your travels.
Well, first I'd like to greet everybody with the great words of peace, joy, and happiness. It's an honor to be here in the company of both of you and the audience here in New Orleans. That's a big, deep question there, brother. But I am a native of New Orleans, born and raised here, been in exile for a few years. And I met Brother Ron through the discussion of mental health and the different events that are taking place with the veterans and with black people in general. And I'd been away for quite a while and just frustrated coming home. It's like coming to a foreign country, recognizing that after Katrina, the need for social workers and mental health workers are just unbelievably neglected by the state and by the federal government and everybody. And so when I ran across Brother Fletcher, then we talked about some of the anxieties of being a veteran, of being a black male, and being an American. It's kind of a joke now. When you get up the roadways, you chase that dream all your life, and then you realize that everybody thinks you, but there's really nobody listening. Nobody's really paying attention. So I'm excited to finally run into some of the intellectual minds of the black community that at least ascertain what is it we need to be doing and what is it we can be doing. Most of the problems we have in the community is a lack of knowledge and information. It always amazes me how there's nothing in place to answer questions about why, how, when, and where when it entails black people. I grew up here in New Orleans. I had fond memories of seeing people in every aspect of life, doing everything. And now I've been home 2.5 years, and it's like, where am I? Where did everybody go? Where are all the generals? Where are the leaders? Where are the honorable men, the teachers, the people that are standing for something? And so hopefully we'll entertain some of those answers. I'm basically here as a guest because I had a lot of questions, and I think I'm in the right place to at least start the dialogue as to what it is we as a people can do to lift ourselves up.
Brother Fletcher?
Yeah. Well, what comes to my mind is a conversation we had earlier. We started to have the conversation, but we didn't chop it up. We didn't get all the way there. And I was mentioning 3 levels: the physical level, the planes, the physical plane, the mental plane, and the spiritual plane. And a lot of times we hear people say, well, the young people drop the ball. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think it's been a collective effort to drop the ball. And what I mean by that is, if you got the physical, to me, that's the young people. That's the young folk who are going to carry out and exercise whatever's executed by the middle, which is the mental. Physical can only take you so far. So then you need a mental plane to guide the physical. So that's your mid-level. I guess people around my age now. I don't know if I'm able to do some of the physical stuff that I used to be able to do. So then the mental part, that would be me. And then you've got a third level, that's the spiritual level. And I'm saying that's y'all charge. Clearly, the spiritual leads the mental, and the mental drives the physical. Those are 3 different planes, but they all work together. And if the young people don't have the proper leadership from the mental to mid-level, like myself, and then I have to be careful. Folk in my position, we have to be careful because it's easy to be led astray by, right? And some of the stuff I'm telling on myself, right, as I talk. So the money, right? The women, things to distract you or amuse you, those kind of things. And the elders, the spiritual level, you guys have to make sure that I stay on track. So it's threefold, is what I'm thinking. So that's what I say about that. You know.
All right, I want to first of all let the audience know that we've opened the, the telephone line, so you can get in on the conversation if you'd like to. The number is on the screen for you to utilize. Let me say this. Brother Abraham mentioned about where are the generals, where are our leaders, where are our mentors. It's unfortunate that those who occupy those positions today, especially here in New Orleans, are not interested, nor are they invested in the black community, the black being, and the future of blackness. Unfortunately, because they have accepted the 30 pieces of silver from our oppressor. I look at the politicians that we have. I look at the preachers that we have. I look at all of these so-called spotlight Negroes who mean the black community no good. Yet they'll be up in the pulpit on Sunday talking about what you need to do to ensure that you can go to heaven after you die. But they live well while they're here on earth.
Yeah, but you know, I kind of agree with you, but I don't like to waste time talking about those individuals. I think those 3 steps that you outlined gives us some symbolic markers to bring about some clarity to silencing those Sunday morning what they call them pulpit pimps.
Yeah.
Kind of political correct term.
Yeah.
For the sake of public television. But I think the platform you started with the 3 essence, and you're absolutely right. The physical is the youth. We do have a lot of young people trying to make the NFL and the NFL, you know, all those types of things, you know. When you talk about the mental part, you know, the shattering part of that is you can't help but recognize that those Sunday morning pulpit pimps are spreading more venom and poison that perpetuates the community as a toxic cancer. Because at this day and age, the truth is quite clear. Most of us don't have the absolute picture of what the truth is, but one absolute thing we do have is that everything that they have given us and told us and showed us has been to the demise and the destruction of us as a people.
That's right.
So at least close your ears and stop listening to pipe dreams and, you know, die and go to heaven. But I think when I think in terms of the mental, then that's the part that has to really be addressed, because we get it on Sunday morning, we get it at home, we get it from our wives, we get it from our parents, we get it from everything in society. But nobody really talks about the obstacles that locks us out and keeps us from functioning. And when you talk about the mental thing, yeah, old guys like me, I'm not fast anymore. I'm not running. I'm not carrying those signs.
Right.
You know, I'm not getting on the front line. You know, and that because the mind has made the adjustments to understanding that somebody has to be able to direct the young people. Somebody have to be able to give them the history. And so what we really miss most of anything is teaching our young people the voices of the prophets that our Creator has given us through time. You know, the things that Marcus talked about are relevant today. The things that Malcolm talked about is relevant today. The things that Martin talked about is relevant today. When I wake up in the morning and go out to get a cup of coffee, I'll find very few people that look like me selling coffee, owning the coffee place, you know, not just working the register.
Right.
And so to me, that affects the mental part of our community, because I'm the guy I am today, and I've owned many of businesses, and I've always been able to sustain myself and my family with a job and in between a job by having skills and some talents. We lack those things today because we're invaded by outside members of other communities that are taking the resources out of our community. And so how do we do the mental transferring back to self? You know, we used to spend $1 in the neighborhood at least 7 times.
Yes.
You could almost track it from the guy that sprayed for bugs, the guy that cut hairs, Miss Sally that pressed hair, and somebody sold popcorn balls and Dixie cups. And none of that economics is going around the community 2 or 3 times.
No.
And so I think those are the things that if we can get a focus on those 3 elements and really converse more about the facts of what has happened and what's continually happening, because it's not yesterday. I used to think it was last year in the 20s and the 30s. The shocking reality is it's the same Dixiecrats that sold us out in 1876 are still operating with new associates but perpetrating the same destruction. And so to the young people, I say get a book. Talk to somebody 10 years older, 20 years older. For us older people, it's kind of hard for us to talk to the young people because most of them are angry for no reason. I know why I'm angry, but I don't know why they're angry, because they have a greater opportunity than we had. The information is more readily available. And so how do we fix that?
It's been my experience with the youth to find out why they're angry, and a lot of their anger is directed at us because they feel as if we failed them. We dropped the ball. You have to realize and understand that it was our generation and the generation before yours that allowed integration to come into our community and disrupt everything. When segregation was at its height, we were a community that was basically self-sufficient. We would teach our youth skills that today you have to go outside the community to learn. We don't even have those skills offered in our public school system anymore.
It's intentional.
So they have rendered us in a position where we have nothing to fight with and very little nutrition for strength to be able to endure any kind of struggle. So our youth is upset with us because they feel as if we did not give them what we were given.
Let me interject there, WC. The question that keeps coming to mind is, where do we start? I'm thinking about the school that you had a couple of years back.
Liberation Academy.
Right. And I'm thinking about, I used to do a summer camp every summer, and we studied African history, not African American history, right, but African history. And we have a lot of help in making sure that people, black people in America, Africans in America, remain in the positions that we're in. And it's easy to blame us for our condition, and that's twofold, right? Yes, if you go all the way back to history, all the way back, we are at blame. The conversation we had earlier, I agree with that. Now that it's the way that it is, we have a lot of help with us remaining in the position that we're in. For instance, I mentioned the mental part. Well, now the commercials are coming in and people in certain positions are propagating and pushing out information to make sure that we stay in a position that we're in. I teach at Southern University sometimes. I don't know if I'm there now.
We understand.
And I can make a comment to students, and because they've been conditioned to think a certain way, I'm gonna have all kind of negative comments, when really I'm trying to liberate you. People will oftentimes teach our young children what to think and not necessarily how to think. You've heard me say that before. That's a problem. If you have someone who wants to dominate you, if you have someone who wants to make sure that they keep the larger portion of the pie to educate you, then you have to question the education that they're going to give you.
Well, you know the funny thing you say that, and it's clear. Why would you let your enemy educate your children?
Right.
Yeah, thank you.
But I want to back up a little bit, because you hit a very, very personal and a very serious note, and I would be remiss if I just let it go by.
Okay, please.
But I must take responsibility and must apologize for my actions. One of the unfortunate things about being black in America is being victimized with so many lies and so much confusion that most of us kind of started off with a good, clear idea, and nobody told us about the evil and the demonic powers. We heard about them on Sunday, and we heard Grandma talk about them, but they was always hocus pocus and boogeyman.
Yes.
But the sad thing is that as a young man, I witnessed older men I looked up to lie, cheat, do all of the things that they said they didn't do. Unfortunately, I became an adult male, and I fell victim and carried on the same bad behavior. So I apologize to the community, to the women, the children, the young people, the older, the elders. Most of all, Brother Ron asked me, what was I most ashamed of in a conversation we had? What did I regret most?
Yeah, there you go.
I spent most of the day pondering that and recognizing that I could pick a million different things, and I'm guilty of just about all of them. And so I think Minister Farrakhan hit on the subject with the Million Man March, and he talked about having to repent and to atonement, you know. And I didn't go to work that day. I stayed home. Wasn't going to be in no crowds or be in no gathering points. But I didn't go to work for Boss that day. I stayed home and I enjoyed the events. And the consciousness is that I think when you say, where do we start? I think that we must start looking in the mirror and recognizing that we are honorable men and that they failed in trying to create something else. And then we have to go back to basics, back to the earth. You know, eat and you will produce. Eat, you will nourish your body. Drink clean water and you would wash the toxics. And so the fundamental universal law for us as a people, as the original people, we don't really need to go to their classrooms. The universe gives us everything we know. Our brothers, the Native Americans, shared that with us. We listen to them, we hear it. The drum beats of Africa to the Caribbean islands, throughout America, the rhythm is the same. And so I think the biggest thing for us to do is to apologize to one another, to our mothers and our wives and our children, and fall humble to the reality that God has sustained us.
Hello.
The Creator has sustained us. We are. We have been. We always will be. And I am strengthened by the fact that this monster has done the most hideous crimes known to humankind against a people, and yet we rise, yet we survive. So there's no shame. There's just a time for us to pull up our bootstraps, shake off the poison, give the man his drugs back, give him his women back, and face the East, and know that we are honorable men.
Yeah. And give him his television set back.
Yes.
And monitor, and if you have to watch TV or other kind of social media outlets, being responsible for what it is that we take in, right? Because, how do you say it? Whatever goes in, certainly that's what's going to come out.
Yes.
And I have to be conscious about that because it could come out to a younger generation, and I'm perpetuating what it is that I say that I want to get rid of. So I want to apologize also because I too have fallen to certain things, and I know for a fact I'm falling on my sword, and at the same time I realize that it's been perpetuated, and I've had a lot of help to think the way that I think and to do some of the things that I do, and I'm responsible to do better so that I can engage better.
One other note, as I fashion myself as a social scientist, and I look and I study and I travel the world, one of the profound things that I recognize is that water is sacred to all people. Blood is sacred to all people. And the phenomenal thing is that people are truly the same. At the end of the day, we all want good, comfort, happiness, joy. So you have to ask yourself, what is different with someone that would perpetrate everything in their power to destroy?
Well, one of the differences is melanin, for
That's
one.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
But and I have to say this because I'm not a student of we are all the same. Yeah. I recall years ago that they can dig up bones from individuals from time immemorial, and they can tell you if that was a white or black person.
Mm-hmm.
So, to me, that
there's a
tells
difference.
me that there are a lot of differences.
There's a difference.
Can I say this? Let me say this. Let's say, for instance, and this is just an example. If there is a monster.
No, there is a monster.
No, I'm just.
There is
just
a
watch this. Let's, hypothetically speaking, right? There's a monster, okay? And the monster wants to eat every person in this room. The monster, let's say the monster didn't make itself. Let's say we made the monster, the three of us. We made the monster. The monster wants to kill every person in this room. The monster didn't make itself. Who's responsible for making sure that the three of us survive?
Well, we individually are responsible, and we take that individuality and move to a collective front so that we can ensure that we all survive.
And watch this. And let's say the monster, because of how it was created, has what appears to be more power, more resources, more everything. I said appears, right? We created it. The monster wants to now turn on its creator. And the monster has more resources, appears to have more resources than the three of us do. Who's responsible?
The creator of the monster. I mean, you're telling the old story of Frankenstein. That's
Well,
basically what you're doing.
I just kind of smile because my discipline wouldn't venture beyond who created the monster. because my discipline would tell me that the mysteries of God are beyond me. So if the monster presents a problem to me, then I have to relieve that monster of his ability to wreak havoc on me.
I agree.
So,
But not only you, on me also.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
and I have to do the same for you and for you also.
Well, you know, and I say this a lot, that black folks are going through the hell that they're going through because it was black folks that initially created white folks to begin with. It was black folks that broke the first commandments that were set down at the point in time of creation. So for doing that, we are now receiving our punishment. We've been receiving it for quite a while.
yeah, but you know, you hit on some very universal points that different perspectives kind of agree on. But at the same time, as a subject that recognizes a power greater than self, where's the separation that I need to know? You know, see, I think the question is why, or did I come before them, or am I bigger than them, or am I better than them, or was I first or second or third? I think those things belong to the Creator.
Well,
I
it depends
I lose
upon what-
reason to fight about that.
And let me say this to you. It depends upon who you owe your homage to. Now, I'd asked earlier, before we started the program, if you were familiar with the Gnostic belief system. Gnostics came into being because of monotheism. But prior to monotheistic thinking, it was always a plural.
Yeah.
We always looked upon more than one higher power.
And male and female.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
what has
that
happened
that
is-
still came in, when you look at time, that still came in the 3rd century, before the recording of the 1st century. Some of that theory came together with people being able to put it in words and put it in fashion.
I can't say. I don't think you can say that it's a theory. I mean, I think it's been proven that before monotheism, you had polytheism, and polytheism was the law of the land. Now, what were you going to say?
I think we're in agreement here where there's a monster, right?
Yeah.
And that monster not only wants to, watch, I'm going to take it deeper, right? The monster not only wants to destroy us, but the earth as well, in terms of policy, in terms of philosophy, in terms of ideology. So now it doesn't matter who's first or second. The bottom line is that monster that has been created wants to destroy, and you can see it
But he's
in
only
philosophy.
been here 6,000 years.
Hey, I'm just saying,
Yeah, at
there's
the
a monster.
maximum.
What do we,
Yeah.
right? So now, what do we do? Period. That's.
But is it a we do thing?
It
It's a
has
we
to
do
be.
thing.
It has to be.
And it starts
We are
individually.
responsible, so
Yeah.
we have to straighten it out. We created the monster, then it's our responsibility to
Well, now
slay the monster.
I'm not taking ownership of creating that monster.
Okay.
If we turned away, I think if we turned away from,
Yeah.
so then that turning away,
If
that's
we
where I'm coming from.
Yeah, if we
The
abstain,
turning- yeah.
yeah, we stay focused, yeah.
But get what I'm saying?
But-
I'm saying, the turning away from
Yeah.
has created the monster. If you turn away from a set of laws and ideas and this, and the turning away from it, this is what happened. That's what I mean by that. That's where I'm and I think that's what you mean.
Yeah.
Okay. So then we are responsible. We have, if you buy into that, then we have created that,
But you
and we are
still,
responsible.
but you still got to be accepting some other part of that platform, because for me, to go with that reasoning, I have to be accepting some of the poison, because that reasoning comes from their poison.
Okay, so I'd have to think about that.
Well,
What poison are you talking
here's
about?
What I say. Here's what I say as a Muslim. There's certain things that are the mysteries of God,
We won't. I get it.
and so automatically the discipline is not to question those things that are beyond. See, I can't send him to hell. I can't end him from being. So God allowed
but to
him.
me, Brother Landis, that's part of the poisoning, right? To think that you're not supposed to question, right?
Well,
because I don't think that there's
Here's
a
what I
problem
say.
with questioning
You're-
at all.
Yeah,
At
here's
all.
what I say. I can question why the moon come up, but I ain't never got a clear answer.
Okay. But one day, maybe you will,
Yeah, well,
right?
I
One day that
trust-
might be unlocked to you.
I trust God.
Okay.
I trust what it gives me,
Okay.
and what it does,
Yeah.
and that's good enough for me.
And it's not final, right? What you know today is not
Not
final,
final.
right? So we're in agreement, right? Because God.
But it's more focused to get along with you, to keep you out of my yard,
Yeah.
than for me to be worrying about.
I got that. I'm in agreement with that.
So
Yeah.
when you go back to that
Yeah.
monster, I think the monster is here, and the discipline is for me to engage with him into a certain way. And I think we as black men, as the original man, when I look back, and you think about some of the other historical accounts of the fallen man, and that, Enoch and the sons of, So the plural gods I agree with, but I think that when you talk about the monster, though, I think the monster is a little bit different for me to be able to.
Well, I give you something that you can think about over the next period of time. You have to look at who that monster is, and if we went from polytheism to monotheism, what was it that brought us to that monotheistic being? Was it that monster that took us away from polytheism and brought us to monotheistic thinking? So that, you got to look at it that way. We have the fastest hour in television, gentlemen, believe it or not. So we've got a couple minutes, and we're going to wrap up. But I want to give both of you about 30 seconds. If there's anything you want to share before we get out of here, and Brother Abraham, I'll start with you.
I think it's time to organize, either political education classes, book clubs, but I think that the time to seize the time. Donald has made it very clear that we need to change the way we think and the way we look at one another. And I think that my words to the greatest city of New Orleans, gentrification only happens if you sleep. And so
Brother,
it ain't them, it's us.
It's us, exactly. Brother Fletcher?
I think we have to become conscious about the way that we relate one to another as black people living in America, Africans in America. When I look at you, mostly what I see is a black man, and if I'm not conscious, then I see a black man based on a white man's definition of a black man, if I'm not conscious. And that'll cause me to interact a certain way with you. When I see a black woman, I don't see just a black woman. I see a black woman based on the definition that was given by white people, right? So I have to become conscious of that. The first thought that I have is probably all the way off. It's probably all the way off. And once I recognize that, then I can correct the way that I enact.
See yourself in the mirror.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, and my closeout is, I think we need to have more of these kinds of interactions so that the community can see and hear what it's going to take for us to be able to sit down and to communicate and converse among ourselves. I want to thank you, and we'll have to reschedule you guys again because this was a very, very enlightening show. I want to thank our viewers and want to remind them that Kwanzaa is next week. So one of the things I want you to think about as a Kwanzaa gift is, of course, our story, The Original Holocaust, which is available at Community Book Center, 2523 Bayou Road, Wayne's World and Sons, 2255 St. Claude Avenue, and Educator's Delight, 3501 Holiday Drive, Suite 405, where you can find my brother Ronald there to take care of you. So I want to thank you for being with us. I want to say join us next year, and if you want, you got my number. They'll put it up there. Call me in the hiatus period, but we'll be back in the first part of January. Always remember, we're here to allow you to know that blackness is essential in everything we do in our lives. We want you to stay strong. We want you to stay involved, but most importantly, we want you to stay committed to blackness. Uhuru Sasa Ngawa.
Ngawa.
Sing a song, full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song, full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun, of our new day begun.
It's a new day.
Let us march on till victory is won. Till victory is
This is
won.
victory music. Come on, I hope you feel it.
How about